Welcome to Under the Hood, presented by WholesaleCars.com, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on what really makes this buy here, pay here dealership tick. Here in Albertville, Alabama, WholesaleCars.com has been in the same spot since 1994, built on honesty, integrity, and excellence. And around here, the people are just as important as the cars. In each episode, you'll hear from industry professionals and the folks who make this place run, sharing real experiences from behind the counter, behind the scenes, and sometimes behind schedule. The goal? Transparency, a little humor, and a closer look at why this team does things differently. This is Under the Hood. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the next episode of Under the Hood with WholesaleCars.com. Today I've got Gerardo with me again. I've got Taylor, our production person, and hopefully this episode, you'll pick up some tidbits that you can use. And what we're going to hit on today are the three things that you need to know before you get on the car lot. Not any car, any car lot, whether it's here or it's at the Ford store or anywhere. If you don't want them hiding the ball on you, and that's what they'll do, you need to know these three things. And those three things are how much payment I can afford, how much my insurance is going to cost, and how much of a down payment do I have? And that is so critical with all the technology we have today. There's really no reason that you can't be prepared when you get to the car lot.
Yeah, of course. Would you say any of those three things, would you rank them in any particular order of more important to least important?
The payment. The payment's the most important thing. The down payment is important, but not as important as the customer getting the payment that fits into their budget, that they prepare at the kitchen table.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the times people go out, buy a car, right? And a lot of the times they're just worried about that day, I need this car. They don't really look too deep into the payment. And then, a few months later, they're bitter towards their car payment every month, right? It's a burden to them, and it just wasn't what they thought it was going to be. It was not as easy as they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, reality set in, and they get caught up in car lots in general. They're pushing you to make this deal, and you get caught up in the emotion. You get caught up in, well, I got to do this now. Somebody else might buy it. Don't fall for that. And you don't have to fall for it if you come prepared. I mean, if you go to the doctor's office and he's going to do blood work, how do you prepare before you get there for that blood work? You typically have to fast. Mm-hmm. You don't eat anything the night before. And, it's just, you just need to be ready when you get there. And so many people, we talked about this on the podcast last time, so many people view the down payment as punitive, mm-hmm. like it's going into my pocket. But if we're pricing, if the dealer you choose to buy from is not hiding the ball from you, he's shooting straight. And when I say shooting straight, that means that his payments are posted on the internet. And if he has fees, what we refer to here as gotcha fees, if he has fees, he'll post those as well. But the reason that, and some of the dealers will post their prices online, but they forget about disclosing that there's a $800 doc fee. Now,
that's a chunk.
That's a chunk. I mean,
yeah.
how are you expected to have any kind of trust? Because you've got that far, and then they say, well, we've got an $800 dock fee.
Oh yeah.
You know.
So that's a big one.
Yeah.
You know, not disclosing an amount of money of that caliber,
Yeah.
especially. I mean, anything should be open and transparent. But
yeah,
man,
but the reason they do that is because, especially in the new car world, is they'll price this 2026 Chevy Cruze.
Mm-hmm.
If they even make a Cruze in 26, I'm not even sure.
I don't know.
But if they this 2026 Chevrolet Camaro, let's say, and they price it for $38,600, and everybody else is $41,000. Well, you go to the guy that's got the cheaper car because you think that's the best deal. But when they add their dock fees, which is just profit, that's all it is profit. The price is the same, but they've deceived you to get you in at the cheaper price, and we're not going to play that game.
Oh yeah. You know, so many times when people come in here, you know, they'll ask that, you know, do you got any fees? And whenever you tell them all you're gonna pay is tax and title, they're surprised, right? Because it's not something, I guess it's not something that's typically done out of here, you know. A lot of the times, you know, you got those gotcha fees, you got those documentation fees, the detail fee, you know, just those little things that they get you with.
Protection package,
Yeah.
VIN etching, all that stuff, it's profit.
It's a lot of terms.
Yeah.
Well, I would say too, there's probably, I would imagine most people ask a lot of questions when they're serious about buying a vehicle. But something, when you hear the term like a documentation fee, that sounds like something that is official or something that's kind of mandatory or something, you know what I mean? And it's not at all.
What they don't want to ask is, well, I should be smart enough to know what a documentation fee is.
Exactly. That's
And
what I mean.
they're intimidated by that term.
Yes.
So they don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember one of the, when I borrowed money in the past, I'd sign the contract and I'd say, what's this? And he'd smile a little bit, and I said, I know what it is. It's a gotcha fee. It's profit. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody does it, but it's they do it because at a bank they say, well, our interest rate is a little cheaper than the guy down the road, but they make it up in dock fees. I don't care if you're buying a car or hiring a roofer to put a roof on your house. I want to do business with the guy or the gal that's going to shoot me straight.
That's right.
I want to be told the truth. Mm-hmm. And people are amazed in our process here, our value proposition process, how transparent we are. It is what it is, and we're going to stay that course.
Have you ever, going back to that very first point that you made, I wanted to ask before I forgot, have you ever seen a scenario where it really cost someone a vehicle that they wanted because they weren't prepared? Like they got here and really had their eye on a vehicle and they didn't have the insurance side of it wrapped up. They didn't know what they could afford, didn't know what kind of payment they could afford, and all of a sudden, hey, you can't leave with this car today because we don't have what we need from you on our end.
There was a lady that wanted a Charger last week. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, Gerardo.
I'm not too familiar, but when you say that, you know, of course, I was thinking, you know, with those sportier cars, so many times people, you know, they get interested in them, right? They call up here and they're like, what do I need down for that Charger, for that Challenger, whatever sporty car they want, right? And, you know, you tell them and they're like, all right, I'm going to come up with that, and then I'm going to go see you. And then, you know, they show up, they're excited because they're about to get this car. But, you know, at the price point that it's at, you know, they really need that full coverage insurance, but that's just not something that they've prepared for. They can't get the insurance, and so in the end, you know, really it's hard for them to get the car. You know, it becomes a whole process, and you know, then they have to, you know, take some more time for that insurance part of it.
Yeah.
You know,
And you know, we take a lot of pride in in getting people in and out up here, because time is money for everyone. That's all we've got to sell is what Taylor set up here today. This is an hour and a half setup.
Takes a little bit.
All we've got is time. So I don't like wasting people's time. Don't want anybody to waste my time. But if they're not telling you the truth about all their fees, what else will they not tell you?
Yeah,
That's right.
So,
When you think about those gotcha fees, when you think about any sort of fees that might be charged, and just the reputation that the used car world has, especially buy here, pay here, do you think a lot of the times the customers, they expect to be lied to?
I think so. Because there are not as many bad dealers out there as there used to be, but there's a seasoning out there with them. They're still there. I'm forever amazed at the cars that we take in on trade here. We carry them straight to the auction, and because if they have no recycling value to us, in other words, if there's no life left in them, we carry them to the auction, and whatever they bring, we sell them. And those cars are being sold to consumers every day. I'm sure they're selling them as is as well, but until the customer educates himself and realizes that this is a piece of equipment, what happens to equipment over time?
It breaks.
It breaks. It wears out. And the more it's used, the more it's worn out. But again, they're buying this I praised a van today, a cargo van. We sold a plug for Bubba-Ritos here. We eat there all the time. They bought a almost new Transit van from us, and I put a number on it, and she said she could sell it on Facebook or somewhere for more than that. And she can, but buyer beware, because that car with 200 and something thousand miles it's not going to hang. It's not going to last. Mm-hmm. It's really not going to last. But anyway, it's all of those costs. There's a lady that came the other day that bought. She drove from Birmingham to buy a Charger, and everything was fully disclosed. She knew about the previous damage before she got here, because we don't want to waste anybody's time before they drive that far. But when she got here, she hadn't done her homework, and part of her homework was, she knew how much of a down payment she had. She knew what monthly payment she could afford. She's dialed in, except when she found out her insurance on this Charger was $250 a month. A month. Oof. She couldn't buy it.
Yeah.
But we sold her something else, and that's what we always tell customers: this is not your forever car, But right now, until her driving record got better,
yeah, that's true.
or she got older, this is probably it. So, another thing you really need to be aware of is. If you go in, and so many customers, I see this all the time, payment-only negotiations. They never worry about the price, and they want to lower their payment. Well, the only thing that'll lower the payment is a bigger down payment or longer terms. And unlike a lot of these guys, our attention spans in society today is about 3 years. After 3 years, we get a little antsy and we want another car. But if I put you in that car for 60 months, it's not going to be fun anymore. But we typically, 36 to 42 months is what we put a customer in a car at. But if you're negotiating payments, and does that happen to you a lot, Gerardo?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times I would say that's the number one thing people are worried about. What's my payment gonna be? Can you get me under X amount a month? And that's their biggest worry, more than price. Sometimes more than down payment. All of that.
Yeah. And when we deal in risk up here. It's just risk. But on the flip side of that coin, the customer has some risk too. So, my risk is, are you going to have a job long enough and be able to see this thing to term? And your risk is going to be, well, is this car dealer, is he going to do what he said he would do and stand behind this product? So but we have to, every day we're weighing out risk. When a customer comes through the door, Gerardo, what do we see? A credit score, or do we see a person?
We see a person. Like we tell everybody, credit's not an issue here.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we pull everyone's credit, but that doesn't matter. So many people, we sell people with 0 credit scores all the time, and they think, well, mine's 0. We love it.
Yeah.
Because you haven't had time to mess it up. And again, I've said this before in previous episodes, so many of my competitors do not report to the credit bureau. There's a reason they don't report to the credit bureau. It's expensive to do. Plus, if they never report your good credit, you stay with them the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because you never graduate to buying a car across the street from me and buy a new car. And but that risk, that's a real part of what we do, is factoring in that risk. I have to risk, is the customer going to let the insurance lapse? Has that ever happened to you, Gerardo?
All the time.
All the time.
That's what we literally have a whole department for that, right? For the customers and their insurance.
Yeah, and we have to manage that. We've got, as you say, a full department that does that, and they're having to call and say, Mr. Smith, your insurance coverage has lapsed. Well, I'll get it next week. Well, I need coverage yesterday and I'm picking up one today in Dawson, Alabama, where the customer wrecked it with no insurance. And the other risk I take is, now the tow company, I've got to pay him $1,000 to get it out of hock and bring it to me. And hopefully there's some parts that we can use off that car, engines and transmissions, when, a customer's car, drivetrain or something goes out. But there's just all kinds of risks. But the customer has some too. You want the customer, they've got to feel good about what they're doing. And we try to take the anxiety out of it here. I like to tell them we've been on this corner for over 40 years. And God willing, we're going to be here another 40 years. I won't, but somebody will, doing this business. So, but.
Well, you mentioned that the risk is kind of a two-way street, that, it's a risk for you, it's a risk for them as well to some degree. Just out of curiosity, what percentage people that buy vehicles here would you say went somewhere else first and were turned down or were told no, and then they end up here? And I guess, you're willing to say yes where other lenders said no. So what's the criteria there? How does it make sense for you to take the risk that other people's wouldn't take?
Obviously, we do our homework with, like I said, we pull people's credit. We're not. People say, well, my credit's going to be bad. So, that's not a factor to us. What the factor is how long have you been on your job? Stability. Job stability is super critical. How long have you lived where you're at right now? You know, if your credit score tells us that you've moved 5 times in the last 18 months, that's not stability. And that's what we look at stability more than we do down payment.
That's true.
We look at stability more than we do job time. But, you know, job stability is, if somebody's been in the area for a good little while, and, you know, we have people come in quite often with a 400 beacon score, which is not good. But, gosh, we look at them. They've got the proper down payment. They've been on their job held the same job for the last 18 months. And the job before that was a similar job. And we look at all that stuff, and hopefully they've been referred up here, which that's after repeat business. Referrals are our next biggest thing that gets people in the door.
Oh, yeah.
So, but those are the things we look at to get people for me to take that risk. If, you know, I wish everybody walked in with a 700 beacon score with $6,000 to pay down, but that's not reality.
Sure. Well, and I know ultimately, at the end of the day, it really is your decision, you know, whereas other places it may not be. But ultimately, if you feel like, hey, I've looked at everything that we normally look at, and maybe this is a unique situation where you say, this might be a no most of the time, but in this particular scenario, I'm willing to give this person a chance. And
Yeah.
You get to make that call.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. We're, again, I was raised in a single parent home, and I know how tough that is. And if we've got a mother that's trying, and she's stability again. Yeah, we did one the other day, I think, with $800 down or something, and it was a low mileage Chevrolet Cruze. But gosh, she'd been on the job for 2 years, and we did her. And that car's supposed to have $2,000 down, but again, her credit was not too good, but she had that stability in her story. You know, we tell car stories up here all the time about, you know, a particular car we get in, but there are customer stories as well. You know, we want to hear the customer story. We want to hear your story. And if they come in and they're, again, we're going to be truthful with you. When you come in to buy a car, we're not going to hide the ball. We're going to tell you exactly how much the car costs, no hidden fees. But now when you come in and we're interviewing you, guess what you need to do? Tell the truth. Mm-hmm. Tell us everything that you know. If we ask you, hey, have you ever had a repo? Don't say no if you've had one, because trust me, if you've had a repo, you remember it.
Yeah.
You remember it. And tell us, you know, and if people are truthful with us, it lets our guard down. Mm-hmm. You know, we can get comfortable with it. But when they tell us some things that we find out, and we can do criminal background checks here, we, you know, credit scores and stuff like that. But just be up front, and we can get you in a car. We can get you in a car.
That's right.
You know, I think so many times when you talk about, you know, when you talk about the risk the customer has to take, you know, trusting that the vehicle they have is a good quality vehicle, it's going to last them, it's going to be dependable for them, right? I think a lot of the times customers just don't see what happens on our end, right? You know, how many hands do our cars go through before they hit the lot? You know, from arriving to the point where you're checking them out, making sure that it's good to go out to the front lot. how many technicians do you say are involved in that
Now, if
process?
you're counting singular hands, there'd be about 80. Now, if you're counting per person, it'd be about 40.
Right.
But you're right, Gerardo. People don't factor that in. They look at the price of the car. Well, that car's cheaper than what they've got at wholesalecars.com. Trust me, there's a reason it's cheaper. We're selling a combination of value and quality.
Oh yeah.
And to get there, it costs a little money to get there. But it goes from initial inspection to parts acquisition for the repairs. We put it up in the air to look at the undercarriage to see if there's rust, to see if there's oil leaks and stuff like that. And then we start the process. We make the decision, okay, do we want to recondition this car and put it out front so that one of my customers can buy it? And the thing about it, when we get one of these cars in and we put it up in the air and we get to see, I've been doing this a long time, I can look at a car and say, it's not a good car. I tell every customer I meet, you've heard me say this before, I'll tell them, I'll say, I'm not going to sell you a bad car
On purpose.
on purpose. If I get down there and I find a bunch of rust under that car that's going to cause problems, not today, but it's going to cause problems 18 months into the contract, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I don't have to. I don't need the money that bad. Where I can put it back in the auction and let somebody else worry about it that's not going to be as transparent as we are. But anyway, we do the repairs and after that, the details come in, and we have a technician that all he does is install airbags. He's good at it, and when we install our airbags, they work. We're not putting together an unsafe vehicle up here, and then it makes it through that process, and then our detail guys take it, and they take a lot of pride in what they do back there because they know I take a lot of pride in it. I want a nice, clean car when it leaves here, and then it's inspected, and that inspection sheet's about 120 checkpoints on it, and each item is checked off as to, hey, this has been checked. We had a lady today that brought back a Armada. She bought it a couple of weeks ago. Her hatch was not functioning properly, and she thought it was going to be an issue. She brings it in, and she had to wait 10 minutes, and we fixed it. And it really wasn't much to fix. There's a process you got to go through to open that thing. If you open it the wrong way with the manual opener, you have to close it manually. When you open it with the key fob, it closes automatically. But anyway, that's lots of people touch them. I mean, you see what we do here.
Oh yeah, it's an intensive process.
Intensive process.
I think a lot of people, they're distrustful of car dealerships, right? They don't think that they're gonna it's as reliable as it seems. A lot of them, that's why they focus so much on price, because I feel like half of them might even be expecting for the car to mess up on them somewhere down the road, right?
That's right.
But I think whenever you look at our process, it really is a unique one, right? When it's described to the customer, I feel like a lot of the times they're relieved by the amount of transparency that we have for the process, right? The amount of transparency toward the numbers, toward the vehicle, right? How we let them know everything, right? They have all the details, they have all the information they need
to make a decision.
Yeah.
To make a decision, yeah. And when you've got all those tools, decisions become easy then.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to leave anxious. And did I make the right decision? Should I have bought that car? Again, we're not going to sell you a bad car on purpose. We're not going to charge you dock fees because we're making money when we sell it to you. I want to apologize for that because there's 35 people that work here. Most people don't know that. And they're paid well. They're paid well. So we have the ability and the capability to do this right, to serve the public in a way that they want to come back. They just want to come back. So
it goes back to that thing that you've said on here repeatedly. It's just easy to do the next right thing.
it is.
Just do the next right thing, and whatever that is, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And then the next one comes in, let's do that one right too.
Yeah.
It's a day by day, case by case basis, but the result's the same.
Yeah, but our reviews are, we have fabulous reviews, and I ask customers all the time, did you read any of our reviews? Yeah, I read them. Did you read any of the bad ones? Yeah, I read some of those. And they know the bad reviews we get are because of somebody lost their driving privileges. They didn't talk to us. It's not that they didn't make their payment. They wouldn't communicate with us. And what do we stress when we sell a car up here, Gerardo?
That you need to communicate.
Communicate. Don't hide from your problems. Communicate. Face it. And we're not going to come get your car because you missed a payment. Now when you miss more than one, we need to have a stern talk. But if you set up a payment cure meaning that, okay, Lacey, I'll be in there this Thursday, and then she's going to ask you what time Thursday, and you need to tell her I'll be there at 2:00. Well, she's setting her clock for 2. She's expecting you to come in. You need to show up. But even here, especially in the car business, you always hear about the bad. Customers coming in with problems or whatever, and we realize that customers, they broke down, they're mad anyway. But we try to understand that. But when we buy parts from vendors, we even pick up the phone and say if they sell us a door for a car, and I'll have my guy, and I used to have them they do it automatically now. When that door gets here and it's exactly as described, we call them and tell them, guess what? Thank you for this nice product. Thank you. And you know what their response is? We don't ever get these calls. We always, always the bad stuff. But we try to be gracious in all our business transactions, and with our vendors, with our customers. It just makes it fun.
Absolutely.
Makes it fun.
Well, anybody, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, feels good to be appreciated.
Yeah.
Feels good to be thanked. Feels good to be, especially I used to say it in student ministry all the time, but I had students that would show up on a Wednesday night, and I'd go, before we would start every service, I'd pray, and I'd just tell God, like, I have no idea why these kids are here. They could be anywhere else on the planet tonight, but they're here. Thank you for bringing them here. It's like they could be at home eating Cheetos, whatever, but they're here. So thank you.
You should ask, another thing you should ask is complete out the door price. When if you're shopping with another, the complete out the door price here is going to be the price of the car
plus tax and title.
At a competitors around here, you need to ask that question, because again, if you're back negotiating just on price, on payment, the payment's still going to stay the same, but your terms just went up. You're going to be paying more for that car because you didn't look at the bottom line price.
Oh yeah.
So, something else that folks should keep in mind. What happens to used cars eventually, Gerardo?
They wear down.
They break.
Yeah, they break.
They break. You should have. I know I'm sounding like Dave Ramsey here, but I do like what he says. You should have a repair reserve for your car. Now, because I've had customers. Hope we don't have any now, but I've had customers in the past that maintenance to them was when it broke down on the interstate and they called a tow truck. That's not maintenance. It's because you didn't do maintenance, you broke down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
you see the check engine light on, and you go pop the hood, and go, yep, it's still there.
it's still there. That's exactly
Get back
right.
in the car, let's go.
That's exactly right. But have a repair reserve, and we have customers that do that. And when that event does come up, you're in pretty good shape at that point.
Yeah, I would imagine. If a customer were watching this, right, they're probably like, they're talking an awful lot about worrying about that payment, worrying about that insurance, worrying about that down payment, having the repair reserve, right? I feel like a lot of times they don't see this content as the educational material that it is.
That it
right?
is.
They think, we're out to benefit ourselves, but being prepared, right? Knowing what you need to spend a month, having that down payment, right? Knowing how much your insurance
easier
is
does it make our job when they get here?
It makes our job easier, but
so
it's
much easier.
also easier on them.
Yes.
In
There's
the
a
long
lot less
run.
stress, a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
less anxiety. So, we can get you, if you come prepared with knowing what you can afford, your payment, knowing how much down payment you got, and knowing that you can afford insurance on it, we can get you in and out here in an hour.
Oh yeah.
And and again, if your stability, let's play a game here, Gerardo. If a customer comes in and they've got the correct down payment, but their stability is not what it should be, what are some of the options we have available to us?
We can.
And again, we're dealing with risk. We're dealing with risk, and to mitigate that risk, and that's a big fancy lawyer word for making it less. To mitigate that risk, our down payment is part of it. If we, again, sure, we could sell cars for no money down. We'd be out of business in about 6 months. But so what are some of the avenues that we can take? Let's say a customer's got the correct down payment. He's got a $3,000 down payment on this, 2012 Nissan Altima, and he's got the correct down payment, but his stability is not what underwriting would like. What are some of the avenues available?
Yeah, of course. If someone comes in, they got that down payment, but again, they've had 3 jobs in the past
Right.
6 months. A lot of the times, we can offer them a pickup payment,
Yep.
where they pay their down payment today, and just to a show of trust, right? We get a little bit extra towards that down payment in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We can, or if they have it then, they can pay it then.
Yeah.
Right. Or we can reselect to a vehicle that calls for less.
Cost
down.
for less.
Is priced
But
less.
cost for less than $3,000 down.
Yeah.
And they'd still need the $3,000, but simply because of their stability.
Oh yeah.
Simply because they've had 2 or 3 jobs, and again, guys, I stress this over and over. Hang with the job for a while. It's that stability is everything. If you stay at a job 3 or 4 years, that's one thing. But when you leave a job after 6 months because somebody made you mad, it's sort of like getting married and divorced. You get divorced. Well, you got rid of one set of problems. Guess what you're about to get if you marry again? Another set of problems. It's always like that. So, just don't think before you jump. But yeah, if your stability is what it should be, about a year's job time or whatever, that down payment's going to be enough. But if it's not, to again mitigate our risk, we're going to need more down payment.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's just, I think the overall arching point of that is just that people do have options if they need reliable transportation. And like,
That's a good point.
Hey, I don't have the stability you're looking for. I don't have the credit score you're looking for.
I can't get this charger.
Right. I've got a down payment. Maybe it's not enough for that charger.
That's right.
But is there something else you can get me in?
That's right.
Well, yes, there is. You know, now it's not a death sentence, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And it's not a forever car.
No, it's not. But we can get you in something that will get you to work and to doctor's appointments and to dropping your kids off at school, or you can get them in something that's reliable.
That will work.
Yes. And then once that stability does get where it needs to be, and that credit score does hop up a little bit, start doing things right, then you can come back and get something else.
Yeah.
But I think that's what a lot of people assume is, well, if dealer X down the road said no, well, then every dealer anywhere I go is going to say no. And that's not necessarily the truth. It just kind of depends on the situation.
Well, it's, the reason we can say yes so many times because our collection department is set up. I mean, here, I'm going to tell you, unless you're a previous customer, we have a track record with you. If you're one day past due, you're going to get a phone call. And the reason that we can say yes is because we take seriously collections and, to make sure that, hey, Joe, you remember your payment was due yesterday. Well, yeah, whatever the excuse is, okay, Joe, when can you come in? And that's the extent of that phone call, But we can get you in. We can get you in a car, and again, a car, even though it's cheaper, still has the same warranty as the Charger, but still it fits within your budget, and that's what you, again, back to Dave Ramsey. That's what you need to be focused on, is what you can afford, not what you want.
Of course, yeah. And I think when it comes to that, what can you afford? So many people are used to what they can afford being something that they don't like, that they don't want. And like you said, sometimes, our customers have to pick a stepping stone car, right? Not a forever car. But so many times when people think about what they can afford, it's in a negative sense, right? But I think here, like we were talking about earlier, the thing with us is that here you have options, right? Regardless of what situation you're in, save for bankruptcy, right? You have the option to purchase a vehicle with lower miles, that's a higher quality, that's going to come with that real warranty. And, we do right by people. We see it all the time. And especially whenever they're prepared, when they're conscious of their situation, when they know, what they can afford. Yeah, when they're in touch with reality, right? It just becomes this much easier process. I had a guy yesterday, he came in, bought a car. He had a large down payment, but he knew, what he was looking for was something lower priced because he had a non-driver identification, right? He knew that he was gonna need more down, right? He didn't look for, a less expensive car and say, hey, let me do less down on that one. He looked for the less expensive car and still did the $4,500 down, right? And in the end, because it was a less expensive car, he was still able to get full coverage insurance.
And have small payments too, with that much down.
Oh yeah. And he knew his situation being a non-driver, that that he was gonna have to look for a less expensive car, and that's exactly what he told me. I'm just needing something to get back and forth to work, and that's what we found him. And again, when people think about getting something that's just gonna get them back and forth to work, I feel like so many times they think about that in a negative way. But that guy bought a 2016 Mazda 3, and it had like 60,000 miles on it. And so, you know, it was not in any way, we didn't get him in any way, right? It was a very nice looking car.
With a warranty.
Yeah. And, you know, being 10 years old, having 60,000 miles is unreal mileage,
Yes.
you know, and of course,
What was how much was that car? 12.9, 13.9?
14.9.
14.9. Yeah.
And you know, he left happy, you know,
Yeah.
because he got what he was looking for, and he, you know, the situation that he was in, he was able to get full coverage insurance on the vehicle, and so, you know, it was a win-win all around.
Yeah, and that's what we try to do is just win-win, because it has to work for us as well as the customer.
Oh yeah.
Now I can make it win for us all the time, and not for the customer. I won't be here long.
Yeah.
I'll be out of business. We had a funny story. I don't know if you know about this story or not, but this lady bought I think it's a Chevy Malibu, and she kept having issues with her headlights. But we'd tell her, well, so we got you a new set of headlights, and come on in, we'll get them installed. And she broke appointment after appointment after appointment. Okay, and so she comes in, and we replaced it. Finally did. She comes in and replaces the headlights, and anyway, so we put her on her way. And you know, again, we were talking earlier about how, you know, we always hear the bad. Well, I'm just a few customers that are you just hate when you see them coming, you know, because they've always got a problem. It's never, hey Gerardo, I really love my car, or it's always about, you know, this thing is broke and it's done this. So this lady comes in the other day and she says, well, she calls, she's mad, and my service manager, he's already on pins and needles. Well, Miss Doe called again. She's not really her name, but Miss Doe called again, and she's hot about this. Said that she got a ticket from the state trooper the other day. Did you hear this story?
No, I haven't.
Oh, this is hilarious. Got a ticket from the state trooper the other day because her headlights went out again, or one of the headlights. I said, do say. I said, okay. I told Adam, I said, you call Mrs. Doe back, and you tell her to bring a copy of that ticket, and we'll pay that ticket. Okay, he said. So we called her back, and she says, okay, I'll bring it up there. A couple of days later, Adam calls and says, you bringing the ticket? Well, my brother-in-law is a state trooper, and he got it tore up for me. Okay, you have a nice day. That doesn't happen anymore. They did that 30 years ago when people went to jail. There's no such thing as tickets getting torn up after they've been written. But anyway, that was, but we were, my point in that whole story is I was going to pay for her ticket if she really got a ticket. I don't believe she did.
Yeah.
I don't believe she did.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's only so much you can do.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
Despite all efforts, you won't be able to make everybody happy.
That's right.
All the time.
But you know, despite the people that, you know, we can't make happy, I think a lot of the times there's people that we do make happy, right? And you know, I feel like, not sure with you, but like, what part would you say is the most gratifying part of the customer journey? Is it whenever they're able to buy a car that gets them to and from, that gets them where they need to go, and you know, it's in a situation that meets their needs comfortably? Or, you know, is it whenever, you know, they pay off and they finally have that title, and they're happy to have that title because they still have a car that's running, that's driving good, that's done good by them. You know?
Because we didn't extend the terms out for 60 months.
Oh yeah.
Because we sold them a car to begin with that had under 100,000, and we knew there was plenty of life left in it. But there's a place in Guntersville called Mercy Homes. Mm-hmm. You're familiar with it, aren't you, Taylor? Yeah. And they take in battered and abused women. They take in women that have had drug issues in the past, and it's a strict regimen where they have to stay there, I think, a year. And it's daily Bible study every day. And the reason they're doing that, they're trying to get the bad stuff out and the good stuff in. So I have over the years participated in that ministry financially, and they will bring Mitzi, who works there. She bought a car from us. Well, she let me back up. She brought one of the girls up the other day. I think Adam sold her.
Could be.
But anyway, brought one up the other day, and she saved her money again. We put her in a good car. She had $2,000 she'd saved up. Instead of taking $500 from one of these places that it's going to break in a week. Mm-hmm. So she saved up $2,000, got a good car from a legitimate dealer that has service technicians, that's been in business for 40 years, that will not sell you a bad car on purpose.
And a warranty.
So she brings her up here and she buys this car, and she's just tickled to death. And it, as you say, it's very gratifying to me to be able to help these women, because that hand up thing again, if we don't help them, and then Mitzi was right there talking about how she still had her, no, it wasn't Mitzi, I can't think of this lady's name. Mitzi, no, it's not Mitzi, it's some lady that works there that used to be a part of the program. She's turned her life around. She's got her kids back now. She lost her children. She's got her children. I can't think of that lady's name, but she bought a car here 4 years ago, and she brought her up here. Mitzi sent them up here, and this lady and the lady that bought came. But she sent them up here, and she said, I bought my car here about 4 years ago. I said, well, what'd you do with it? She said, I still got it. She's still driving it. And she said, it's paid for. And again, you know what I told her she needed to be doing? What do you think I told her, Gerardo? See if you know the answer to this. If she's paid her car off, what should she be doing?
Whatever you were paying on the car, put it back.
Keep paying on the car.
Put it away.
Another Dave Ramsey plug, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that is what's so gratifying, And I tell these young women, I say, do what you say you'll do. If you can't make your payment, communicate with us. We're not going to get your car because you miss a payment. We're going to get your car if it goes into plural.
Yeah.
Payments, and talk to us. But that's what's so gratifying. And I always tell them, I say, no, if you mess this up, you're going to make it tougher on the next lady that comes through needing this type of assistance. So,
again, it's always great to hear about customer success. Great to hear whenever. Again, as we've been talking this whole episode, right? Whenever customers are prepared for buying a car, when they've prepared, what kind of monthly payment they need, when they've prepared that down payment, and when they're prepared to get the insurance on the vehicle, it goes well for everybody, and it's best for the longevity of the car life and the customer relationship,
Yeah.
Whenever all those T's are crossed, whenever all those I's are dotted, it makes it that much easier, right? And whenever they can trust in our product, whenever whenever it grows into having success with a customer, and the customer having success with their car, it just, again, like we said earlier, it's a win-win.
It is.
Right? And, so many times, like we talked about, people think that the dealership is out to get them. They think, that certain things are more important, right? They think, that the payment is the most important thing to them, right? And they don't bat an eye at the price or they think that having that lower down payment is the most important thing to them, and they don't care what their payment is, right? But none of those things are recipes for success, right? Those things are quite the contrary, actually, and so yeah, I think, as we've been talking about, it's super important for the customer to know these things and to be prepared, as you said at the beginning.
Well, we're probably on right about time, aren't we, Taylor? Let me close with this. A responsible lender is not just shouldn't just be asking, can we get this customer approved? A responsible lender will want to know if this deal is going to be working 6 months from now, a year from now, rather than, hey, we got across the finish line and we've just sold an old car and next. No, we're here to see you succeed. And I cannot overemphasize how easy it is to get your credit up after we report here when you're making those timely payments. Anyway, thanks for being with us today. Hope we had some information that was beneficial, and we'll see you on the next episode.